Welcome to the Flip and Castle podcast.
Okay, so have you noticed? It feels like everyone's seeing something weird in the sky these days.
Yeah.
Like every time you open your phone, boom, another UFO video.
It's true. There's definitely been a surge in these sightings, or at least in the attention they're getting.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to know.
Just like, is it just me? Or are there really more unexplained things flying around up there?
Right. Exactly. Like, are we living in some kind of sci-fi movie now, or what?
Right.
So that's what we're diving into today, all those strange lights, those shapes, those things that go whoosh in the night. But we're not just here to watch videos, are we?
No, definitely not. I think, anyone can go down that rabbit hole on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
We want to go deeper, look for the patterns, the common threads, try to separate the signal from the noise,
Exactly. Because that's the thing, right? Some of these videos, they're just, they're blurry, they're shaky, they could be anything.
Oh, absolutely. And our brains are hardwired to find patterns even where they don't exist.
Totally. Like that video, the one from Oklahoma City a little while back, the white thing that seemed to split in two. People were losing their minds over that one.
Right. The Oklahoma City UFO, as it's become known. A perfect example of how a brief, ambiguous video can really capture the imagination.
But see, that's the thing. Even if it's just a few seconds of blurry footage, it gets you thinking. What if?
Exactly. It's that what if that makes it so intriguing. But in many cases, without more information, it's almost impossible to say what we're really seeing. Could be a drone, a weather balloon, even just a bird.
Or a really weird cloud.
Or a really weird cloud, exactly. But sometimes those unexplained sightings, they stick with you.
They do. They really do. Like that whole thing at the Vatican, remember? The shadowy figure over St. Peter's Square. Talk about spooky timing.
The Grim Reaper apparition. Yeah, that one definitely sent chills down a few spines. The setting, the timing, it all adds to the mystery.
For sure. But I have to admit, I did some digging on that one, and it looks like a pretty solid explanation.
Right. Turns out what people were seeing was most likely a weather phenomenon called a false streak hole.
Okay, so like a hole in the clouds.
Yeah, basically. It happens when you have supercooled water droplets in the cloud layer. They're below freezing, but they haven't frozen yet, need something to kind of trigger it. And when they do freeze, they fall, leaving this, often perfectly round gap in the clouds. It can look really dramatic, especially from a distance.
Oh, there you go. Science to the rescue, right? Although I got to say, giant spooky hole in the sky does have a certain ring to it.
I agree. It does have a certain ring to it. It's not as exciting as maybe, a portal to another dimension or something, but...
Yeah, but you got to admit, it's still pretty cool.
Right.
And it just goes to show there's often a perfectly normal explanation, even for the weirdest sightings. But then again, sometimes there isn't. Take those massive shadows people have been reporting. Those seem a little harder to brush off, right?
Yeah, the giant shadows. You're right, those are pretty eerie. They tap into that primal fear of something huge, looming, unknowable.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking shadows that seem to stretch for miles, cast by something we can't see.
Right, and that's what makes them so unsettling. But, as with many of these things, there's often a scientific explanation.
Oh. So you're telling me it's not just me. I'm not the only one who finds that a little bit freaky.
No, not at all. In fact, this phenomenon has been documented for centuries. It's called a fata morgana, which I know sounds like something straight out of Arthurian legend.
Right.
But it's actually a type of mirage. It happens when light is bent as it passes through layers of air at different temperatures. This can create a displaced image, often distorted and magnified, of objects that are actually located somewhere else. So those giants we're seeing, they're likely reflections of buildings, mountains, or other structures on the ground, just warped and magnified by this fata morgana effect.
So basically a really elaborate mirage. Still pretty cool, though. But speaking of cool, that may be a little creepy, what about that dark arrival video? The one, it was all over the internet a while back, that huge dark shape descending through the storm clouds in Colorado?
Ah, yes, the dark arrival. That one definitely got people talking. The sheer size of the object, the way it seemed to just materialize out of the storm, it was like something out of a movie.
It was, wasn't it? But you know what really got me? Nobody in the video even reacted. It's like they couldn't even see it.
That is strange, isn't it? It could be a number of things, though. Maybe they were focused on something else, or the visibility was worse than it seemed on camera, or hey, maybe they were just used to seeing weird stuff in the sky. You never know.
I guess that's possible. Okay, so maybe the dark arrival was just a trick of the light or some weird cloud formation we don't understand.
Yeah.
But what about those figures people saw flying over Savannah? The flashy jetpack mystery. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah, the jetpack sightings. Those were pretty wild, especially the first figure with those flashes of light. People were coming up with all sorts of theories about what it could be: experimental tech, some kind of new propulsion system.
It definitely didn't look like your average drone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And way too high to be a person with a jetpack, right? Or are we thinking like super secret government jetpacks now?
Well, the second sighting, which happened a few hours after the first one, in the same area, did appear to be a more conventional type of jetpack, so maybe there is some truth to that.
Okay, so maybe one mystery solved, sort of. But this next one, I'm not so sure. Remember that bird? The one just hanging out in midair? I mean, birds are cool and all, but that just seemed impossible.
You're talking about the floating bird video. Yeah, that one was strange. I mean, it's not every day you see a bird just completely ignore gravity.
Right, it was just frozen there like it hit pause on reality or something. Do we even know what to make of that one?
It's hard to say. Was it a glitch in the camera? A weird trick of perspective? Or, maybe birds have been practicing their magic tricks and we're just now catching on.
Maybe they're tired of us humans having all the fun with the unexplained phenomena, right?
But okay, while we're on the topic of things that seemingly defy the laws of physics, did you see that video from Ohio? The one with the hovering mystery?
The tree bark that seemed to be, suspended in midair. Yes, exactly. It was like something straight out of the X-Files, right?
Yeah.
And the guy filming, he was adamant. There were no strings, no wires, nothing holding it up.
It's true. The footage is pretty convincing. And whenever we encounter something that seems to violate our understanding of how the world works, well, it's only natural to start looking for explanations, right?
Right. So what are we thinking? Alien tech, secret government experiments, or maybe just a very confused piece of tree bark.
Well, I hate to disappoint, but a likely culprit in this case could be something far less exciting: the wind. You'd be surprised how easily a strong, unpredictable gust of wind can lift and suspend lightweight objects, even for a short period of time. It could be that the angle of the camera and the briefness of the video just made it seem even more mysterious than it actually was.
Okay, I'm willing to entertain that possibility. After all, the wind can do some pretty crazy things.
Right. We've all seen those videos of trampolines flying away.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So a piece of tree bark, maybe not that far-fetched.
Okay, fair enough. But I still think I'm going to side with the very confused piece of tree bark theory on this one, just to keep things interesting.
I like it. It's that gap between what we know and what we don't, that what makes these sightings so fascinating.
Totally. It's like our brains are hardwired for this stuff. We see something we can't explain, and boom, the imagination takes over.
Exactly. It's how we're wired.
Speaking of things we can't explain, did you see that footage from the last solar eclipse? People were freaking out about this thing they saw.
You mean the anomaly from the solar eclipse? Yeah, that was a weird one. Right after the eclipse on April 10th, this shape appeared.
This thing was wild.
Right.
It wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. And the timing, right after the eclipse, come on, that's got to mean something.
It's true. The timing is uncanny. It definitely lends itself to all sorts of speculation about interdimensional beings and cosmic gateways.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Interdimensional beings using a solar eclipse as a portal to our world. That's the good stuff.
It's definitely a compelling thought. Now, while I'm not saying it's impossible, and certain cosmic events could create, let's say, fluctuations in the fabric of space-time, the reality is our understanding of those mechanics is still quite limited.
Okay, I get it. We need more data. But a guy can dream, can't he?
Of course. And who knows, maybe someday we'll have the technology to actually test these theories. But for now, it's still fun to speculate. Speaking of strange things in the sky, have you heard about those extra moons people have been reporting?
Oh, yeah, the multiple moons thing, right? I saw that video from Greenland, the one with the frost-covered moon. It was beautiful, but also kind of creepy. Like, where did that second moon even come from?
It's a good question. As visually striking as that footage was, the most likely explanation is an optical illusion. Our atmosphere can play all sorts of tricks on our perception, especially when you factor in low light conditions, ice crystals, things like that.
So, no secret second moon. Bummer. I was kind of hoping we had a twin moon we never knew about.
I know, right? That would be amazing. But hey, who knows what else is out there? Maybe we'll discover a new moon someday.
Okay, I can get behind that. Speaking of the moon, though, you've got to talk about that moon freezing storm video. That one still blows my mind.
The one where it looks like the moon is suddenly covered in frost.
Yes. It was like watching a time lapse of a snowball forming, but on a lunar scale. What could even cause something like that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? While we don't have a definitive answer, some scientists speculate that it could be a result of volcanic activity on the moon, a sudden release of gas and dust, creating that visual effect.
So like a giant lunar volcano just decided to let off some steam. That's kind of metal. But I thought the moon was geologically dead.
Well, dead might be a bit of an overstatement. It's certainly less active than it was billions of years ago, but there's still a lot we don't know about the moon's interior and its potential for, let's say, unexpected events.
Okay, I'm listening. What other explanations are out there? Because I gotta say, the whole moon suddenly freezing over thing, that's got me a little freaked out.
And rightfully so. It's a pretty wild concept. Another theory that's been floated is that it could be related to Earth's own climate change.
Wait, what? How does our climate change mess with the moon?
It's a bit complex, but the basic idea is that as our atmosphere warms, it could be altering the balance of gases and particles in the Earth-Moon system. And those changes, even subtle ones, could have unpredictable effects on the lunar environment.
Wow, so we're basically exporting our climate problems to the moon now. That's just great.
It really makes you think about the interconnectedness of, well, everything, doesn't it? But speaking of interconnectedness and unexpected events, we can't forget about that alleged explosion on the moon.
Oh man, that footage from 2012, I remember that. It was like something slammed into the moon right before it blew up.
It was a pretty impactful video, no pun intended, and it sparked a lot of debate about what could have caused it. Some people suggested it was a deliberate act, either by, well,
Aliens.
or potentially even us, some secret space program we don't know about.
Exactly. Okay, that just took a turn. So either aliens are using our moon as target practice, or we're hiding some seriously advanced tech from the rest of the world. Which is it?
If only I had those answers. The truth is, we still don't know for sure what caused that explosion. It could have been a natural impact event, a large meteoroid striking the lunar surface. The moon gets hit by space debris all the time, most of it too small to notice, but occasionally something bigger gets through.
Okay, I'll admit, the natural impact explanation makes a lot more sense than, secret space lasers or whatever. But a guy can dream, right?
Always.
Right.
A healthy dose of imagination is never a bad thing.
That's what I always say. Keep an open mind, explore all the possibilities. But, maybe sleep with one eye open, just in case.
Good advice, I'd say. Good advice. Speaking of keeping an open mind, I have to ask about that video from Brazil. The one that's been called the alien abduction footage.
Oh man, that one. That's some creepy stuff right there. A beam of light, a figure seemingly being taken up into a craft. It's like something ripped straight from the X-Files.
Right. It definitely plays into our deepest fears about the unknown. But as with all these things, it's important to approach such claims with a healthy dose of skepticism. The footage itself is compelling, but without any other corroborating evidence, it's impossible to verify its authenticity.
So you're saying it could be fake?
I'm saying we need to be cautious about jumping to conclusions. Until we have more information, it's best to remain open-minded, but also grounded in reality.
Okay, fair enough. But part of me wants to believe, it's more fun that way.
Oh, absolutely. The mystery is half the fun.
We've gone through a lot of weirdness today. Giant shadows, floating birds, exploding moons. It's enough to make you want to stay inside and never look up again.
Right. It's like, what's next?
Exactly. But, as much as these sightings can be a little unsettling, there's also something incredibly exciting about them, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a big part of why we're so drawn to these mysteries. They remind us that there's still so much out there that we don't understand.
It's like we think we've got it all figured out, and then boom, a video pops up online of a bird just chilling in midair, and suddenly all bets are off.
Exactly. It's a humbling experience in a way. It reminds us to stay curious, to question what we think we know, and to be open to the possibility that our current understanding of the universe is just a tiny piece of a much larger puzzle.
I love that. It's like a reminder that reality is often stranger than fiction.
And a much more interesting, in my opinion.
Okay, so final thoughts. After diving deep into all these unexplained phenomena, where do we even go from here?
Well, for me, it reinforces the importance of keeping an open mind. We may not have all the answers yet, but that's okay. The search for those answers, the pursuit of knowledge, that's what keeps things interesting.
I like that. It's not about proving or disproving aliens or ghosts or whatever else is out there. It's about the journey, the exploration.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday we'll have those answers. Maybe we'll finally unlock the secrets of the universe. But until then, we've got to enjoy the ride.
Well said.
Yeah.
So, To our listener out there, the next time you see something strange in the sky, don't just dismiss it. Take a moment, really look at it, and ask yourself, what if? Because even if it turns out to be nothing, the act of questioning, of wondering, of exploring the unknown, that's what makes life interesting. And hey, if you happen to catch it on video, send it our way. We're always up for a good mystery. Until next time, keep looking up.